Kawhi Leonard's time in the NBA has certainly been explosive, and for more reasons than one. From his falling out with the Spurs to his roller coaster years with the Los Angeles Clippers, Kawhi's career has been as much about courtroom drama and investigations as it has been about basketball highlights. Okay, maybe that's a bit far, but let me explain. Back in San Antonio, Kawhi had a very public falling out with the Spurs organization over his quad injury. The disagreement on how it was handled led to him essentially shutting down his season, requesting a trade, and forcing his way to Toronto. That saga set the tone for what would come later, Kawhi controlling his destiny even if it caused controversy. When Kawhi joined the Clippers in 2019, the league instantly took notice. The Raptors were frustrated, believing special benefits had been offered to lure him to Los Angeles. We've since heard various other reports about said benefits as well. The NBA followed up by opening an investigation into possible salary cap circumvention. However, nothing concrete was found, but the Clippers did receive a very stern warning from Adam Silver, who also noted that if they found anything, they would reopen the investigation, who also noted that he views salary cap circumvention as the cardinal sin in the NBA and takes it extremely seriously, and that they would keep their eyes open, and if anything happened, they would reopen their investigation. We'll talk more about that later on. However, it didn't end there. In 2020, Johnny Wilkes, a former associate of Kawhi's Uncle Dennis, filed a lawsuit claiming he helped orchestrate Kawhi's move to LA and was promised millions by Jerry West and the Clippers. The case dragged on for years before being dismissed. You may remember, but back then during that time, there was a lot of controversy around how the Clippers initially courted Kawhi during his time in Toronto, from various things like the Clippers constantly having personnel at Kawhi's games. Anyway, in 2022, Randy Shelton, a trainer who once worked with Kawhi at San Diego State, sued the Clippers and executive Lawrence Frank, alleging tampering and mishandling of Kawhi's knee. The Clippers called it a shakedown, but the lawsuit is still ongoing. On the topic of Kawhi's knee, last year we actually got a really explosive, multi-page document talking all about how Kawhi feels like the Clippers have mismanaged his injuries and so much more. Beyond the legal drama, Kawhi's health has been a constant issue. Since joining the Clippers, he's had 3 knee surgeries and missed over 100 games. However, the low point came in the 2021-22 season when Kawhi missed the entire year after tearing his ACL in the 21 playoffs. That season stands out specifically as the one where he missed the most games, 82 straight. And overall, Kawhi has averaged around 35 to 40 missed games per year in LA, rarely completing a full season. And naturally, as we're talking about his time on the Los Angeles Clippers, we need to also mention the playoff performances. When it comes to the postseason, the Clippers have had very mixed results. In Kawhi's tenure, they've only won 3 playoff series total. The highlight was the 2021 Western Conference Finals run, the first in franchise history. But Kawhi didn't even finish that playoff run healthy. He tore his ACL against the Jazz, leaving Paul George to carry the load. And we know how that goes. More often than not, the Clippers' playoff streams have ended with Kawhi on the sideline. And here's the kicker. Through all of this, the Clippers have paid Kawhi an estimated $244 million in salary. And that's without including the endorsements or external deals. More on that again in a moment. And that's for a franchise that gave up a historic haul to pair Kawhi with Paul George. The return has been far short of expectations when you consider the fact they were very much hoping that they would win a championship by adding both of those guys. And again, we're mostly talking about Kawhi and his inavailability, his money, all that stuff, but can't let PG kind of slide. I know I threw a shot at him earlier. He also was somebody that was very unavailable for them and collected a lot of money. And so you've got a situation where they traded away to get PG as a result of Kawhi wanting PG to come there, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, among a ton of other assets, who is, last I checked, the reigning MVP, reigning Finals MVP, and a reigning NBA champion. That certainly worked out well, right? And now the latest and possibly biggest controversy, the Aspiration deal.
Our great presenting sponsor for the Basketball Bulletin is Sleeper. If you've never heard of the Sleeper app, or more likely you have, here's a little secret. It is more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, there's millions of users playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more than just that. They have live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats, something I use every day, the news feed. Get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams, and a real-time chat where you can engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA season. So download the Sleeper app today. I made a couple of picks here on Sleeper. I'm fired up for the NFL season. I like on the season, Tyler Warren, the rookie with the Colts, more than 550.5 receiving yards. I think he's going to be a really important target for Daniel Jones. And then Zach Charbonnet. Yes, this means I don't think Ken Walker is going to stay healthy the entire season. Zach Charbonnet, 499.5 rushing yards. I think he will be involved in that offense, and he will eclipse that. So make sure you guys do check out the Sleeper app if you agree with me or if you don't agree with me. Check it out either way.
Don't forget to enter promo code Bulletin as well upon sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. In 2021, right after Kawhi signed a max extension with the Clippers, a green banking startup called Aspiration struck a $330 million sponsorship deal with the Clippers. Soon after, Kawhi himself reportedly signed a $28 million endorsement deal with Aspiration, except it was never announced. He never did any ads, and the company went bankrupt. Then came the bombshell. Documents showed another $20 million tied to a separate agreement through Kawhi's LLC, KL2 Aspire. That's $48 million in total, in what many around the league believe was essentially a no-show endorsement. That is especially notable because when you factor in Ballmer's own contributions of about $50 million, it adds up quite nicely. And so critics are arguing it looks like cap circumvention, paying Kawhi outside of his contract to stay in LA. Last night, Steve Ballmer addressed this head on in an interview with Ramona Shelburne. He admitted that the Clippers introduced Kawhi to Aspiration, but denied any wrongdoing, claiming he only owned a small stake in the company, called it fraudulent, and even said he was embarrassed for not catching their scheme earlier. This is very important to note because Ballmer was also an investor in the company. He did not own them. He was not a founder. In fact, he owned exactly 3%, which is important too, because if he owns more than 5%, that becomes problematic. However, around the league, the deal is seen as one of the most shadiest endorsement arrangements in NBA history. This is not stuff that we have seen conclusive evidence of yet. We know about all the documents and pages that Pablo Torre has. However, the NBA still has to undergo their own investigation into this. So I guess innocent until proven guilty, of course. Let's recap. Since joining the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard has been tied to at least 4 different lawsuits or investigations. He's undergone 3 knee surgeries, missed over 100 games, won just 3 playoff series, and still earned $244 million in salary. And that's not counting the questionable up to $48 million endorsement deal with a now defunct company. The Clippers brought Kawhi in to change the franchise forever, and he did, maybe not in the way they imagined.